All right, here we go. And we are live. This is Travis Witherspoon from Carter Cow Trading. Trade with Travis on YouTube, on Instagram, obviously Carter Cow Trading. Hope everybody's doing very well on this Wednesday morning. I have 7:03 a.m. Hopefully everybody's doing very well. For the people that are actually on live and everything else like that, make sure that you end up sharing this video out to anyone that you know that may end up thinking that they may end up needing it or interested in being able to learn how to be able to trade. Very excited to be able to get started. Let's go ahead and get to the disclaimer, and then after that, we'll go ahead and take a look at the charts. All right, so I'm not a CTA, so I'm not going to tell you whether to buy or sell. What I'm going to do is teach you education, and from the education, you can be able to make your own informed decision. I understand that Forex involves risk. It involves risk of being able to make money, also involves risk of being able to lose money. But I understand that past performance is not indicative of future results, which means that if you end up making money yesterday, it's not promised that you're going to end up making money today. So hopefully everybody's doing very well. I'm getting ready to show myself on the camera. I'm looking at Instagram. Instagram, how you doing? Hope everything's going well. Thank you for being able to log in. If you end up hopping in on Instagram and you want to see what we're doing on our actual charts, go to Trade with Travis on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe and share this video out to somebody else and be able to watch it from there. YouTube and Facebook, what's going on? 7 o'clockers, what's going on? Obviously, this is going to be recorded, so for the people that watch this a little bit later on throughout the evening, you can be able to watch it as well. So hopefully everybody's doing very well when it comes down to that. Before we end up getting started, we're getting very close. We got 5 more days until we end up getting started with this month boot camp, Believe in Yourself boot camp. That's going to end up going from October 26th to October 30th, each and every night from 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. Each day it's going to end up having some type of segmented thing that we're going to end up talking about. Very excited to be able to go through this again. Each and every month is always good. I always add something onto it each and every month because it makes it a little bit easier. And also being able to talk to previous clients and being able to talk to new clients makes it a little bit more to be able to talk into the reasons why you should actually end up getting into it and adding on to stuff. This month, you're actually going to end up getting a equity management system that you'll end up getting as soon as you end up deciding that you want to do it. You end up getting a trading strategy. We'll help you get started when it comes down to setting up your broker, a broker for the U.S. and a broker for outside of the U.S. It's very important when it comes down to being able to trade things like gold and oil and the U.S. dollar index and stuff like that. You're interested in being able to learn how to be able to do all of that stuff. Obviously, make sure that you end up tapping into it. I'm going to end up typing in inside of the chat box for both of them where you can be able to purchase your link, where you can be able to get to the payment portal if you want to be able to do that. It's also inside of the comment section. So if you want to, inside of the description section, if you want to be able to do that, you can be able to hop in. Once again, it's going to end up being $20 per class. And from there, pretty much, you end up getting all the links, all the videos, and everything else like that. So very much excited to be able to get that started with this month and be able to go from there. I just copied it over to Facebook. Get ready to copy it over to YouTube so YouTube can be able to have it. And then after that, we can be able to move on. Let's go ahead and take a look at the charts. Wasting a little bit too much time. All right, so economic calendar. Let's go ahead and take a look at that real quick. Let's see what's happening. Keep in mind, stimulus checks are at a point to where they may end up getting set up. All right. There's been a deadline of this week of being able to try to see if you can get something done so we could possibly be able to get it before November 3rd. Now, what is the likelihood of that happening? What is the likelihood of that just being all talk? I think there's a likelihood of it happening. I think there's also a likelihood of it being all talk as well. So we have to be able to understand that if that does happen, that the U.S. dollar will probably end up getting strong for a day. And then after that, what's going to end up being the determining factor for the next few days? We have to keep that in mind as well. But overall, the U.S. dollar looks like it's very weak right now at this particular point. But overall, looking at the economic calendar, we end up seeing that the pound end up having their CPI end up coming out, actually end up coming out as expected. But their consumer price index, their retail price index, and their retail price index for month after month actually end up being negative. So that should have affected the pound to the downside, but slightly. It's not necessarily the worst news in the world, but it is bad news in general. Going into it a little bit later on today, we're going to end up having the Bank of Canada have their consumer price index and their retail sales actually end up coming out. Remember, the Canadian dollar is very stagnant on the day before news actually ends up coming out. So we have to use that as a way of being able to understand what's going to happen with the overall news for the Canadian dollar. Typically after 8:30, wait until about 8:45, allow the market to be able to move. And then after that, you can be able to make your own decision on how you're going to end up getting into the market based off of what the market gives you instead of trying to guess. A little bit later on, after that, there's not going to be that much news. So today is considered to be a trader's day. So make sure that you eye those charts and be able to focus based off of that. Okay. Now, let's go ahead and get into the big three and let's pay attention to it. Overall, this is what I see. We end up talking about this market being bearish or starting to be bearish. We see that it's basically getting very close to the sell zone. And essentially, that's what's happening right now. We see that this market ended up breaking the trend line. So there goes your breakout. Remember, when there's a breakout, that's almost always a retest. But if this market keeps on breaking down and it goes below 12,000, then this market is going to be continued to be bearish. Now, the stimulus talks may end up giving it a push to the upside. But at the same time, if this market does break bearish, it's going to be bearish on all U.S.-based pairs. So keep that in mind. I haven't been trading that much on U.S.-based pairs because of this issue right here. Because we see on the weekly's getting very close to being in the sell zone. Let me switch my chart real quick so we can see everything. Probably would be nice if I do that. There we go. So if we look at this from a weekly perspective, we can definitely see that this market is curling over to the sell zone. So we're getting time frame alignment, but we're getting time frame alignment to the downside. And with us having time frame alignment to the downside and a break of the trend line on the downside move, I'm going to consider this market now, if it remains to hold to be this way, I'm going to consider this market to be bearish. So every pair that we end up looking at this particular point in time, we are going to end up looking with a bearish undertone. Now, you have to, in order for this to confirm, we have to make sure and see what happens after 5 o'clock today. If this market remains to be bearish, then after that, you will start to see that more people will not buy the dollar. More people will look to sell the dollar, look for opportunities to be able to get in if you haven't already. Okay, so to me, the weekly and the daily are pretty much at a position to where they've broken trend lines. They're at a point to where they're going to start being bearish. Now we just have to have confirmation for what the movement on a little bit later on. All right, now take a look at oil. We actually ended up taking a trade on oil yesterday. Actually ended up getting stopped out on this trade on oil yesterday. If you end up remaining to be in and did not take profit while the market was actually moving. Me, in my particular case, what I ended up doing was seeing that the market ended up breaking the 2-hour low, and we'll go over it real quick. But we can see that this market is still a consolidation. It broke out, and then after that, it went back inside a consolidation right here. Currently, the market's at 40.95. We got in at 40, I think at 40.21. I'm sorry, at 40.17. And then after that, the market went down from that downward movement. It went as low as 40.50 and then popped right back up to the upside and gave a high of 41.89. So it took us out of the market. I seen that, I know for me, I was up about $300 based off this overall move. And then after that, I moved my stop loss to break even. So I made $40 off of the first trade, and I tried to sell it again based off the high price. And I had my stop very tight at 41.50. Market ended up knocking out 41.50, and then after that, moving back down. It's inside of the channel right now as we speak. But the question is this market truly bearish? And what I'm looking at right now is the same thing we looked at yesterday. The market, when we got in yesterday, it gave us a high price right up here. We sold it. The market went down to the 2-hour low, broke the 2-hour low, and then started to push back up and went to a new D extension. Now, once that D extension ended up getting hit, the market ended up retracing again. Now it's below the trend line once again, but it's actually retesting at this particular point in time. The market is basically in a no trade zone. So the question would be, because I still consider this market to be in consolidation because it fell back inside of this overall area, should we be looking at being able to trade right now? The answer is still, in this case, would be no. The reason why it would be no is because that if we're looking at this as a market that ended up breaking a D extension, which was right here, and completed the overall D extension, then we're basically having a breakout and trying to turn past resistance into future support. Well, it broke inside of that actual support. we're still treating this as support and resistance rules. You want to buy at support, you want to sell at resistance. Right now, if we look at this overall market, I don't like how it's basically at 40.95. Anything above 41 would make sense on being able to get in. Anything below 41 does not make any sense for us being able to get in at this particular point. I will look at trying to see if this market gives you a higher price and still being able to pop up here, but rejecting it again. If it rejects again, then after that, you can look to be able to sell it. But if it's not there, then once again, you just leave it alone. So I'm going to still consider this market to be sideways. If we look at it from a daily perspective, this market is considered to be bearish overall. But if you did not get it right when the market hit 41.35 again last night, then there's no reason to be able to try to get back into it. We took a small low loss. It is what it is. But at the same time, that's the reason why you trade with good equity management. Now, going into gold, so I'm looking at this market. I'm still going to consider this to be sideways. So if we go through and we take a look at what's happening with gold, remember, in looking at this overall pair, we end up saying very quickly that this market is considered to be bullish. Now, we got a lot of things that are kind of going for us right now, right? Stimulus talks are basically are not going out well currently right now. And as long as they end up remaining to be the same, then people are going to end up putting their money into different areas. You think about it, Bitcoin ended up pushing up to $12,000 yesterday. Once again, that's because of the fear of the U.S. dollar not necessarily doing what it's supposed to do. You can see outside markets like the Eurozone and obviously gold are starting to pick back up because the U.S. dollar is showing impending weakness, right? So if we're looking at this overall move on the weekly, we can see that this market is still basically going in the buy zone. It broke a trend line up bullish. We're basically up here, so we have time on that side. All we have to do with this remain to be patient. This market is going through a upwards channel, and we're going to talk about that upwards channel in a second. But you can clearly see that this market has broken out bullish, but we're still having that small little consolidation because I think people are trying to hold out. See that we end up having a support level that's being used right there. And we can see that we have a resistance level. I don't need that. Get trend line. We see that we have a resistance level that's basically going up top right here. So essentially, all we've been doing from this overall level has been falling down to support, hitting resistance, falling down to support, hitting resistance, falling down to support, going through a small other channel, going through a smaller channel, right? And the market is basically doing this. But if it continues to break out, then it's going to move back up and hit the resistance again. The expected resistance is at 1942. That's our D extension for its overall move. Once again, should you be getting into this market right now? The answer is no. The market is in the sell zone at this particular point. You have not got in, then you need to wait for a lower price. But one other thing that I am seeing, and it keeps on happening, is that we have two different channels that are basically working right now. And we've seen in the previous portion, this market end up bouncing up and using this as a tight consolidation area right here in this area right here. All right, we can see that this was your support. Here goes your resistance in this area. We're seeing the same thing that's happening from the bottom. Now, if this market ends up breaking out of this position and start to push back up, then I do believe it's going to end up hitting our overall goal. And as long as the market keeps on giving us a bullish channel on this one, then I'm going to keep on staying in this actual trade. Currently, right now, if we look at it, up about $400 on this overall move. We're going through this overall channel. This is what we're looking at from a buying perspective. Remember, we ended up talking about yesterday that if this market ends up breaking above 1910, we don't have that many people that are looking at being able to sell on this market. So even though the market is getting close to the sell zone, we don't have that many people that are looking to be able to trade in this overall pocket from 1918 all the way up to 1940. So I do expect that this market is going to continue moving bullish up to our overall D extension. That's why I'm so patient on it. That's why I'm so confident in thinking that this market is going to do its thing. Now, once again, the patience will end up driving in your income on this one. It's showing that we have a point of control right around the 1943 area. We're getting out at 1942. Well, that makes sense for this overall spot. If we're looking at what's happening with the overall trading previously, we can see that once again, the biggest area where most people are actually buying or selling is at 1942 or 1947. So we're getting out at that area before we end up seeing that impending weakness. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. If you're in on gold, congratulations. remain to be patient, allow the market to be able to move. Hopefully we can still keep on getting good, bad news from the dollar and good news from gold, and we'll go from there. Okay, so that's where we're at when it comes down to that pair. Let's take a look at the currency strength chart and see what's actually happening with that. Then after that, we kind of make our decision on what we want to do today. So earlier today, the pound and the New Zealand dollar are basically strong right now. The US dollar is weak and the Canadian dollar is weak. I think the Canadian dollar is just slightly weak just because of the news that's about to come out. So nobody's actually trading it until that news actually comes out. So if we're looking at any chart, we're looking at any pairs to be able to trade right now, it would be buying on a pound United States dollar and buying on a New Zealand dollar United States dollar if we were trying to trade that. So let's take a look at that and let's see if there's any type of trading opportunity. At least for us being able to scalp the market. If it is, then obviously we'll take a look at being able to trade the pair. If not, then we'll end up going from there. Let's see. And if you have any questions inside of the comment section or anything else like that, obviously you can write your questions down or you can write your pairs down and we can be able to get into those. So let's take a look at this from the daily. From the weekly verse. On the pound United States dollar, we can see that the market is getting closer to the buy zone. With that being said, we end up saying that the U.S. dollar index was expected to be bearish. So we need to look at this from a bullish undertone and looking at seeing if there's any buying opportunity. On the weekly, we see that the market is at 20%. With the market being at 20%, we should start looking at overall buy trades or impending buy trades that we can be able to get. And currently right now, if we look at this at the fractal high, or looking at where we are when it comes down to this overall move, this market has completed a overall crown field, or has completed the beginning of a crown field and broken a trend line. What I mean by that is that this market ended up breaking the sequence of a upfield move, of a downfield move when the market ended up going all the way down to 1.14. Subsequently, since then, has pushed back all the way up to 134 and then broke again. So on this particular move, what are we looking for? We go based off of the crown fibs, and I'm getting ready to get rid of the down fibs because the down fibs don't mean anything anymore. And we're looking based off of what is happening based off of the crown. So we have to make our own custom fib and being able to go through this. So you don't know what a crown fib is, you need to hop inside of our boot camp. Once again, October 26th to October 30th. We still have seats remaining when it comes down to getting into that. The market is expected to be able to go up to 147. Based off of this move, the market has dropped down to the 382, which considers the market to be healthy, and that means that we have time on our side to be able to get into it. So currently right now, I'm going to consider the market to be bullish based off of the weekly on this one. Now we got to see if the daily is bullish on this one. Going based off of this move, the market was in the sell zone right here, fell down into the buy zone, and we're starting to see there's a little bit of consolidation. There was a bearish evening star that has happened, and the market has been falling against this point of control at 1.3060 at this particular point in time. We're looking at just the smaller fibs if we want to get in and stay in a little bit later. Right now, what I would end up doing is that I would wait for the 2 hour to see how the market is going to end up reacting to it. We're getting close to the buy zone. Obviously, if we're trying to place our stop anywhere, our stop would have to be on a daily very far away, basically at 1.2060, somewhere around there. I don't like that risk to reward. But if we go to the 2 hour, we can look at this C right here, which will be right there in that area, and then see what we can be able to get from a 2 hour perspective and being able to trade this. Okay, so this is our low that we end up having off of the 2 hour. Let's see what we can be able to get for us trading this to the upside right here. Okay, the A was broken right there. Try this again. Okay, so this is the current field that we're in, and quite frankly, you would have bought this about 6 hours ago, you would have been in a very good position. But this is where we're at. The market has been rejecting off of the point of control of 1.3060. I've seen that a couple times. So I don't know if this is considered to be consolidation or whatever may be the case. But with this market being in a buy zone, there's no real trade to be able to take. If this market is in consolidation, treat it like the two rules as always. You want to buy support, you want to sell at resistance. I don't mean to sell right now. I'm looking at buying opportunities. I want to see this market kind of flow back inside of this area. If we can be able to get that, then I'm very much excited to be able to trade it. I don't think that we will. I think that the market may end up popping up to the upside, but if it does give us a chance to be able to fall, what I would look for is the market basically giving us a slight retracement. Once we end up getting that slight retracement, then after that, I will look for a trend line break to the upside. If we get that, then after that, we'll be good to go for us being able to buy based off of that trend line break in the buy zone. Stop loss on this one will end up being below the overall sequence start. So I will look at this and probably place it below 1.208. I'm sorry, 1.28. Why I say 1.208? That was kind of weird. Stop loss would be below 128. Take profit in this case. You want to go short term would be 132.53. Being able to go from there. We're trying to buy from here right now, hypothetically. That would be a 197 pip gain with a stop of 260. Once again, that's the reason why we're not taking a trade right now. But if the market falls and it gives us the opportunity to be able to get in, then that would be the thing that I would look for today. Okay, so market moves without us earlier. Now we just look for a slight retracement and we can be able to get it, and then we trade it from there. Let's take a look at the New Zealand dollar. I said New Zealand dollar was the strongest pair from there. Next. New Zealand dollar, United States dollar did the same thing. Had a huge, we were looking at being able to sell this at the beginning. Now we need to take a look at this from the weekly and the daily and kind of get an idea on what's happening with this market. Overall, this market is considered to be bullish. But we had daily moves that were looking to the downside on being able to trade. And the market has been struggling to get past the 6,800 area. So we're still in an upfield. We're still basically in an area of the market kind of moving very slow. Remember, the daily trading range on this one is not that large. So overall, if we're looking at this from a weekly perspective, this weekly has only been moving between right around 150 pip range. So this market is still in the no trade area for the weekly. There's something to be able to pay attention to. There is a break to the downside. So the market is considered to still be in the sell zone. There hasn't been a break to the upside as of yet. Even though we're looking at this on a weekly, there still has not been like a consistent break to the upside. So I'm going to consider the weekly to still be somewhat bearish. That doesn't spell out good tones for what's happening on the daily. Because remember, earlier during this week was actually looking to be able to sell based off of a counter trend line break. We got the counter trend line break right here, but it bounced right back up to the upside. So it's been using this overall support level as an area to be able to push back up. Right now, this chart is showing support. It's showing that we have actual areas where the market will not break below 6,500. But I don't like what I see. And typically, when I see that the market is in the no trade zone on the weekly and no trade zone on the daily, even though that there has been a big push toward the upside, it's not sustained as of yet. It's not in a position to where it's saying, hey, come buy me right now and be able to get in. It's just saying that it's bouncing off of the support. People that end up buying this are support resistant players right now. That's pretty much it that I'm looking at. That's all I see. I don't see anything else. Basically, when I see that the market, okay. I just see people that are buying support and they're saying, okay, well, the US dollar's down, so anytime that it gives me a low price, I'm just going to buy up and try to scalp the market. I don't like that. I'm a little bit more of, I have to have the right setup to be able to get in. If it's not there, then I'm not going to end up forcing myself to be able to trade this one. So pound and New Zealand dollar are out right now. We got time for one more trade. Let's see. Let's see who was third. We might as well take a look at the U.S. yen, because if we're looking at gold basically getting better, then we should look at the U.S. yen as a means of being able to sell. Remember, we've been looking at trying to sell on this market for a while now. We have had opportunities of being able to sell and make profit on this move while it's actually moving down, and bam, there goes the fall right there, just as we spoke. Okay, so there's a break to the downside. We've missed out on this position. That was a huge that ended up had to happen right around 9 o'clock this morning. Oh, I'm sorry, right around 2 o'clock this morning. The high was at 148. Currently, the market is at 140. Currently, the market low is at 104.83. The market has been struggling to beat 104 and actually be able to break below 104. Currently, right now, IGE boy, what's going on? Hope everything's going well with you. If we're looking at this from a 2-hour perspective, what I would look for is that kind of like what happened on every other trade. We want to see if this market would give us a slight little push up with the market being in the 2-hour and then after that falling back down. We had a counter trend line break. It basically retested already. It's already done pushed down to the downside. This is a support, so we're not going to buy the future low price. We're not going to sell the future low price at this particular point in time. We have to get a high price that you have not got in at this particular point. I'm hoping that my automated system caught this one because this was a very good trade to the downside. If my automated system ended up catching it, then I'd be very excited. But I won't look at that until later on today and then be able to go from there. But overall, this is what we have. Right now, we're still up on gold. We'll allow the market to be able to move and go up through this channel. Remember, the market is expected to be able to hit right around 142. We're slowly grinding up and getting into that position. If you got into that on Monday or you got into that yesterday, you should be up on this overall move. Just remain to be patient while the market is actually moving from there. Gold is not necessarily the fastest mover, but it does move steady. So we have to keep that in mind. NASDAQ 100 and a few other pairs like that have been falling off. They have been finding support at 164. I'm looking for the next buying opportunity to be able to get into that. I don't like what I'm seeing when it comes down to gold based off of this overall look and having all these hammers that are basically turning in to be weak. We know in the 2 hours basically going to end up turning over again. If you're a person that likes being able to take profit in a high position, I would say go ahead and take a little bit off of the table and go ahead and protect yourself and put some money in your pocket if you want to be able to do that on gold. But once again, I think steadily that this market is going to keep on waving up to the upside. I just don't like how this market is kind of falling down and making it seem like the US dollar is getting stronger right now at this particular point on this move. But obviously the market moves in waves, so we're looking at a smaller wave in this actual point. Maybe a little bit later on today, we may see it'll be a little bit different. NASDAQ 100 is down. US 30 is down. Bitcoin ended up popping up to 12,300. And so if you have some Bitcoin, obviously congratulations on that. US oil still in consolidation and US 30 is still down. So don't have that much positions to be able to wait for it and to get in at this point, but we just remain to be patient. Now, if you like what we end up doing, once again, we have our boot camp class that's going to end up starting we have a boot camp class that's going to end up starting this upcoming Monday, October 26th to October 30th. Once again, it's a 5-day Forex boot camp. Getting yourself set up for people that are interested in being able to trade, people that haven't traded before, people that are looking to find that little edge. All right, take the time to invest in yourself and be able to go from there. Once again, we're going to go from 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. You end up getting all of the recorded videos, a currency. You end up getting your own equity management calculator to help you out when it comes down to trading. We'll teach you how to be able to use a simple, repeatable strategy that we do here each and every day. And then from there, obviously, we end up giving you an opportunity to be able to hop inside of our masterclass if that's something that you're interested in being able to do. But until then, I thank you everybody for being able to watch on. For the people that are going to watch this in a pre-recorded video, hey, how you doing? Hopefully everybody's doing very well. And happy trading today. Once again, be patient with the gold trade. We'll see how it actually ends up going. And we'll see how everything moves from there. Plan your trade your plan.